I think we're on. Yep, we're on.
All right, hi everybody.
Hey everybody.
Happy Wednesday. We hope you're having a great night. And if you're coming in later, we hope you're doing well as well.
Yep, and then if you're coming in later and you're seeing the replay, if you have any comments or questions, make sure to hashtag replay in that comment or question so we can get back to you and we know it's from the replay. So welcome to our Wednesday Live.
Welcome to Wednesday Live.
Yay!
We're Sean and Allison, and we're from Spoken Garden. So we do a lot of garden care videos and flower care and all kinds of things related to the garden.
Yep, we have a daily video like today. Today's live, but we usually have a regular video come out every day that aren't live, but we try to do that every day to bring you the goings-ons in our garden. So hopefully you're doing different things in your garden. It's fall. There's a lot of different things happening in the fall for your garden. You might not know that, but one of the things that goes on is planting.
And we have officially declared this planting week, as we already stated on Instagram, if you follow us there. We have so much stuff to plant, you guys. We have over 300, probably close to 400 bulbs.
Oh, and the bulbs too.
And then perennials. I don't even know if this is all the perennials that we have yet to plant. By the way, some of these we have had since spring, so they need to get in the ground.
Yeah, they need to be planted. So, but yeah, tonight, we're gonna go through and show you how to plant a perennial. And as we're planting the perennial, we're gonna do that in a pot specifically, we're gonna give you the similarities and differences of planting that perennial from a pot to your garden, actually in the ground, and some of those differences and how to actually think about it and what you need to know and how to get through that and be successful planting your plants.
Definitely. And if you're watching now live, please hit us up in the chat. Let us know what zone you garden in or where you live, and any questions you have about planting. We'd love to help.
Yeah, and especially what you're planting. If you're going to plant something, what are you going to plant?
What are you planting? And also, and then if you're watching the replay, go ahead and let us know down in the comments below so we can get back to you.
Totally.
But we thought it would be fun to kind of introduce you to all the plants on the table. We've got some beautiful color and lots of green. We're going into a season where a lot of plants go dormant, so there's not as much color available. Yep. There is some.
Yeah, and some plants keep their green, some plants don't. We have a couple of examples here to show you of some plants that keep their leaves and some that don't.
I don't even know where to start.
Let's start with rosemary.
Let's do rosemary. We have two
Rosemary.
rosemaries.
We got two of them, of course.
We love rosemary.
We love them.
So rosemary is a wonderful perennial. Most of them bloom beautiful blue flowers, and they're just aromatic. They smell amazing. So, I mean, you can eat them, you can just plant them and watch them grow. They attract all kinds of pollinators.
Yep.
So
now these guys love full sun and well-draining soils, so something to keep in mind. They are drought tolerant too, so another thing to keep in mind.
I always forget that.
Next thing we have.
I love the foliage on this. Isn't this gorgeous?
Yep, this is our Daphne. This is, I think, is our winter Daphne. Yep, and it's got the variegation, if you can see that on the leaves there. It's got the variegated leaves, and what that means, if you don't know, is that it has different colors of leaves, or different colors on its leaves, and it has a pattern, and it's called variegated, and you can see that pattern right here.
So pretty.
Now there's a darker green in the center, and there's a lighter, almost yellow kind of green on the outskirts, on the margins of the leaves. Some plants have 3 or more types of colors when they're variegated, so that's really cool. It's great to bring that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And as you can tell, this is a small plant. This is still fairly immature, meaning it's about a year and a half old, I believe, and it will bloom. There's actually, I don't know if you probably can't see from your point, but there are little tiny blooms in the center, and it blooms in the winter, which is awesome.
Yep, it's a nice winter blooming plant. Now that's an example of a evergreen plant, a plant that actually keeps its leaves. It's a perennial, but it keeps its leaves year-round. Same with the rosemary.
That's cool.
So yeah, 2 plants that keep their leaves year-round. So do you want to pick the next one?
Where to go next? Yes. Okay.
Cool.
Dusty Miller.
Favorite.
This is such a cool plant. Look at the foliage. I mean, how many plants do you see that have a grayish, like silver foliage? And by the way, if you're not familiar with this plant, it's actually really soft. It's like fuzzy foliage.
Yep.
I
know, it's a beautiful plant. It adds so much texture and that featheriness to it. And this is a cool thing. This plant is actually related to the Shasta daisies. It's in the daisy family.
Is that real? I didn't know that.
Yep.
That is so cool. The daisy family is so amazing. Okay, so, I love this plant.
Now in our climate, it's still a herbaceous perennial, but it actually sticks around all year, most years anyway. Sometimes if it gets cold enough, it will die back down to the ground. But here it just stays above the ground. It keeps all its leaves. So here it's more evergreen than herbaceous. But in your zone, it might not be that. So it's just something to keep in mind if you're picking the plant out.
Okay, what else? We've got,
Oh, go ahead.
Mums?
Yep, let's do mums.
Our color.
Mums are awesome.
Oh, sorry. Dusty Miller. So 2 fall mums. So we haven't decided. I think we're putting these both in a container eventually, like soon, probably this week, planting week.
Planting week.
But you can, in some zones, put these right in the ground.
Yep. And these are garden mums. These are hardy mums. So they are a perennial type of mum. And in our climate, they'll, again, die back down to the ground. And we're on the cusp, really, if they'll survive in our zone. We're in zone 8 and 8B. And so sometimes we have milder winters, sometimes we don't. And so lately we've had enough mild winters that we've been actually able to hold these over. And we showed you those in a previous video.
Yeah, we did.
So,
we love mums.
Yeah. So we've gotten those
What else
guys.
is over there?
We've got, actually, this is a cool plant. This
that
is
is
a
a
willow.
cool plant.
This is a salix. This is a willow. And what does the tag
I
say
don't really
here?
know much about willows, to be honest. I know that it's not zoned for our area. I think we were told
It's not.
when we were given this plant.
This was a gift to us by Ryan. You know who you are. And thank you. And so this plant's about a year old in our hands, in our custody. So it's an Iceberg Alley first edition. And so it's a Salix candida. And so it's a willow. It's a beautiful plant. It is
interesting.
Yeah, it is a. It does lose its leaves. It's deciduous in our climate, and so it did overwinter, fully exposed to the elements. Its roots and
Amazing.
everything were fully exposed out in our backyard, and it's here. It's survived. It's leafed out.
We actually kind of forgot about it.
Yeah, we thought it was dead.
I know we did, and it
So,
leafed out in the
yep.
spring. We couldn't believe it.
We've got some dieback on it, but that's to be expected in our climate. So it's not really zoned for here. So. But it's great to have.
I know, it works.
So,
I think we'll probably end up putting that in a container where we can winterize it by moving it closer to the house and put some mulch over the top.
we'll really protect it.
Let's see.
Yeah, here, I got it. Yeah, totally.
We've got primroses. We actually have a ton of primroses,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they're just starting to bloom again. So in our climate, primroses basically bloom all year.
Yeah,
I mean, we're
they
including
really do.
the winter. Like
Yep.
this has not stopped blooming.
We've got them all over the garden.
All over the garden. So we need to get these planted because they will spread and be a nice, beautiful mound of colorful flowers.
And there's more of these. You can't see them up here, but we've probably got, I don't know, about 4 or 5 more of
We
these
have
that
a
we
lot of
need
these.
that go with these. So yeah, we'll have a little clump of them somewhere.
I know, and they're so beautiful because they will tolerate some partial shade. So you can really add some pops of color to areas that might not normally get, color.
Totally.
Because of the
And
lack of sunlight.
totally. And the other thing is that they are perennial. They're evergreen in our climate. Those leaves stick around all year round.
cool.
They don't die away, and they're great to have as a filler on a border. So.
Oh, let's grab this. I love this.
Heather.
It's a heather or a heath, right?
Yeah.
We decided that,
Heather has feathers.
I believe this was a heath we determined, but it is starting to bloom, which is so cool.
Yep.
So we have been trying to, we've been struggling to figure out where to plant this because it will get fairly big, and it's just a cool, interesting plant, the way it's shaped. And
It's got it's got a cluster of tiny flowers at the tip of each growing point, and it's beautiful.
it really is, and we need to find a home for it.
Yeah, we need to prune it and shape it. Once we get it established, it'll be beautiful.
We'll probably put that in the ground somewhere, don't you think?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
And this is an evergreen. Did we already say that?
I don't.
Okay. Yeah, this is an evergreen plant, so it's in the Ericaceae family. It's in the same family as rhododendrons and azaleas.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know.
So pretty cool. Yeah. So
Neat.
yeah. Okay.
What else is up there?
I think these are
These are awesome.
Are these the crepe myrtle?
This is new for us. No, these are ornamental pomegranate
Pomegranate.
from Proven Winners. We were given these last summer.
Yep.
We haven't planted them yet. They actually need full sun, and we're not sure where we want to put them.
Oh yeah.
Getting kind of root bound, it looks like.
Yeah, a little bit.
But they have these beautiful little flowers, really delicate.
Yeah, real small, tiny flowers.
I forget the mature size on these.
Me too. We'll have to look that up. Yep.
So sorry we don't know much about these yet, because these are they're new for us, and yeah.
Yeah, they wintered over the same as the willow did, and yeah, we're kind of surprised they made it. So
it's always a surprise. And last but not least, we actually have several pansies around our yard, but this is our last one that we have not planted yet. This will be going in a container with these guys, with the mums. And if you saw this,
maybe the Dusty Miller too.
oh yeah, maybe the Dusty.
Yeah.
So we need to plant this. It's starting to kind of grow out of its home here, but we love winter pansies. They're beautiful.
And again, in our climate, they stick around all year.
They stick around all year.
Yeah, so we're really lucky.
Yeah, we've had great luck with these. So hopefully you do as well, because these add a lot of color to your fall and winter borders and containers.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, anybody with us yet?
Got a,
Nope. Okay,
yeah,
well.
we've got a couple people, so cool.
Okay.
All right, let's get to work.
Okay, here we go. So, today guys, we're gonna actually transplant this perennial. This is rosemary, we just showed it to you. We're gonna transplant this rosemary into this pot, and as we're transplanting it, we're going to go over the steps to properly transplant any perennial this fall that you might have to do this fall. And we're going to do that for the pot specifically, but then we're also going to talk about how it's different and what you need to look for and what you need to do when you're planting it in the ground in your garden.
Well, I think it's really interesting. We've had a lot of questions from beginning gardeners in our audience wondering, why do you plant in the fall? It seems weird because if you're new to gardening, you think of fall and going into winter as being really cold, and like, why would you expose a brand new plant to like harsh conditions?
So, and that's a great question, and everybody that's asking that, you know, rightfully so. You should ask any question. No question's out of bounds. No question's bad. So for that question though, you want to plant the perennials because a lot of them in the fall, they're done flowering, or they're getting to be almost done flowering, and so it's a good time. They've gotten through their reproductive cycle, so they're not putting that energy into doing that, into flowering, so you're not going to stress them out even more if they were flowering to get them in the ground. Another thing is that they're starting to shut down. Most of the plants are starting to really get dormant. They're starting to slow down, and they're either losing their leaves like the deciduous plants are going to do, or they're just evergreens, but they're still going to start slowing down, and they're just, you know, their metabolism is slowing down because the temperature is slowing down, and it's a dormant season for them. So it's good to get them when they slow down. It's less stress. They're not actively growing. They're not needing the nutrients and having that heat and the sun. And so it's good to transplant them then in the fall. And then also in the fall, everything's cooling off, but the soil is still warm. There's residual heat from the summer still radiating up out of the ground, and it keeps the soil nice and warm, well above the temperature of the actually surrounding air. And that's great for the roots to get established really, really well. It helps with establishment of any plant that you put in the ground in the fall.
That's cool. So it's like, it's kind of a win-win, I guess. You get the root establishment because the soil's warm, and then they're already past their flowering period.
Yep.
So cool. Okay.
Yeah. So with that, should we?
Let's do it.
Let's get in there. Let's do it. Okay. So we're going to transplant this rosemary. So a little bit of history. We bought this rosemary back in springtime. So we haven't transplanted it yet.
We need to. We have another one sitting here too that really needs
so
to fit.
What we're expecting in this from this rosemary is a little bit of root bound. It's going to be a little bit of root bound, but I guess we should back up a little bit and say we're planting in a pot. So if you're planting in a pot, some supplies you're going to need is actually the pot. You're going to need some potting soil, or the soil that you need that the plant needs to survive in that pot. Luckily for us, this rosemary likes potting soil with a little acidity, so we've got some organic matter in here. This is great stuff for it. Also, you're going to need a place to put this pot with this plant in it, so make sure you know the plant's needs. Does it need a lot of sun or shade? Is it going to need a lot of watering, even through the winter? So just something to keep in mind. Or is it going to need protection too? So that's also something you need to consider. One difference, I can tell you right off, one difference from having a plant in a pot over the winter versus having it planted in the ground is that when a plant is in a pot, it's raised up above the ground. You can literally see the plant will be in here. It's above the ground. It doesn't have that insulation that the ground provides from the cold air and the temperatures and even the frost. So it's exposed up here. That means its roots are exposed up here to all those temperatures and that frost and that freezing. So that can be a detriment. So what you want to do is make sure if you have a perennial in a pot, if it needs protection, get it up next to the house, or put a lot of mulch. Put it in an area where you can put some mulch up, and they call it healing in. You put mulch all the way up to the rim and even sometimes into the pot, so it has that extra insulation around there, so it protects those roots. So that's one difference.
Yeah, that's cool.
So okay guys, so we've got our pot with our potting soil. We're gonna make a little, we're gonna make a hole here, and something you wanna consider, when you're making the hole in the pot is you want to take away any air pockets that are going to develop when you place the plant and its roots into the pot. So what you're going to do in the middle of that hole is you're going to create a mound. And what that's going to do is that's above that hole, the level of the hole. It's going to create a little mound so the pot goes actually on top of it. It makes sure there's less air pockets around that plant's roots. And so this is important because you don't want air pockets to fill up with water and be holding places for water later on that can kill the roots or be a housing area for different pests. So, okay, what do we got?
Oh my goodness, super root bound.
Ooh, we're root bound. Something to consider when you're looking at the plants too, if you're either putting it into a pot or out in the ground, is you want to look at the roots, make sure they're kind of a lighter brown or even white. And that means they're actively growing, they're healthy. If they're dark brown or black and you can't really see them, that's a bad sign. That means the roots are having some issues with either too much water or there's something else going on, maybe a disease. So keep that in mind. So what we're going to do with this is we're actually going to break this up and loosen these roots so we can spread them out in the pot and make sure that they're getting out into this new soil. Now you would do the same thing if you were planting this plant out in, and that's okay, I just broke that off, that's okay to do. If you were planting this plant out into your garden, you would actually do the same thing to get these roots. See, I took that root off of there, it was really root bound. You can still see it's got a lot of these tiny feeder roots in it. So it's still gonna do just fine once we get it the way we want it. So I'm making a mess. You guys can't see, but I'm making a mess. So you can still see a lot of those feeder roots, and that's great because that's where it really gets a lot of the nutrients and air and water. So we've got our plant, look at that. Looking pretty good. We're gonna spread this out.
Now this is a blue spires rosemary. That's the cultivar, and
Pretty.
it'll have light blue flowers next spring. It'll be beautiful.
So, got our plant. Gonna make that little mound there. So something else to think about when you're planting a plant either in a pot or in the ground, you want to keep the soil level that it was originally planted at in the pot, like right here. You want to make sure that when this plant is done being planted in the ground or in the pot, that soil level that it's planted in is at the same level. If it's too high above that or it's too low from that level, it's going to be bad for the plant. You can run into a lot of different issues. So just make sure that whatever level that soil was at in that pot, you plant it at that same level in the next pot or in the ground. So we're going to plop this down on here. We're going to make sure those roots are good.
Now this container will probably be a temporary home because this rosemary is just going to keep growing and growing. So we will eventually probably transplant it into the ground at some point over the next maybe in a couple years, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. And by that time, by that time the roots will actually come out to this edge of this pot and they'll start circling. And so just what you saw with this smaller pot, same thing eventually will happen here because this plant is actually going to get pretty big and it'll outgrow this pot, like Allison was saying. So.
Okay.
So,
what's next?
So I wanted to go over real quick the difference between what we're doing now in the pot versus what you would do in your garden. So you can see a pot is a confined space. It's a limited space. You don't have to worry really about digging a hole wider or anything like that. This is it. This is all you're going to do. So the difference between planting and making a planting hole in a pot versus putting it out in the garden, what you want to do out in the garden is you want to dig your planting hole, its width, twice as wide in width as the plant roots are deep. So if we take this up, I haven't planted this yet, you can see these roots are about, maybe about 4 inches.
4 or 5 inches.
So 4 inches deep is the roots, right? So what we got to do is we got to take 4 inches and we got to go out 8 inches. And the reason for that is because you want to make sure that those roots, when they get down on the ground, they have an easy time going out into that garden soil and establishing themselves. If you don't do that, it'll still try to establish itself, but it's going to have a harder time penetrating through all that soil surrounding it in its new home. So that's why you want to do that. So, okay, that's the difference.
So wealth of knowledge over here, right, you guys? I learn new things every day.
So, oh, and before we do this, if you can't break up like you saw me do the roots of the plant with my hands, with your hands, use pruners. Use hand pruners or some other type of cutting tool to get that off of there and remove those extra roots and those circling roots. If you don't have this, you can use something else. Another reason to remove the roots when they're circling is because if you don't remove those roots and they're still circling, or you don't break up the plant roots when they're doing that, you just take it out of that pot and plop it in, those roots are going to continue to grow in that manner. They're not going to branch off. Most of them are going to continue to grow around and around and around, and that's going to lead to girdling and some other issues. So break up the roots.
Don't be afraid. It took me a while to get used to that, but just get in there and break them up.
Yep.
It really does help that
That's right.
plant be a lot healthier down the road.
That's right. So now we're just filling in around the plant. So we're just being strategic with placing it back in. This is called backfilling of the planting hole. So whether you're doing this in a pot or out in the garden, you're going to backfill the hole where the plant's been planted. So we're just tamping it down as we go, making sure it's nice and snug. And so besides making sure that the soil is nicely and firmly in there and it doesn't move around, you're also creating a really good surface to surface connection between the soil and those plant roots, because that's going to be important when you water it and it continuously grows to get the water and air and nutrients. You want that connection. You don't want spaces. Otherwise, the plant's going to have a harder time getting the water and the nutrients and air it needs. And for all you out there that don't know, you might not know this, you might know this, plant roots do breathe. They actually do respire. So that's why I'm talking about air along with water and nutrients. So, okay guys, so here we go. Looks like we backfilled, we got our level just the way we want it. Looks pretty good. We're tamped down. Something to think about and to keep in mind when you're placing the plant in here and in the pot and you're backfilling, keep a space between the actual lip of the pot down to where the actual soil level is in the pot. You want to do about 1 inch, 2 inches, and we've talked about this before in different plantings, but just to reiterate that point, you want space for water to collect and then naturally infiltrate that soil and go through the soil. If you don't do that, water's just going to go on top. If you had it just flush with the top of this pot, water will hit this and it'll just wash right out. Just no water will get down to the roots.
Yeah,
so
you don't want your soil at the top.
Yep.
Definitely not.
So, yeah. So
that's it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
We could say this is one perennial checked off our list.
Yeah, right.
Many.
So the very last step we would do with planting this plant in this pot is water it in, and then we would place it, and that would be it. So now, if you were out in the garden and you were putting this into the ground and you had mulch in that area, you would take the mulch and put it around the place, put it over the soil around the plant. You would keep it 2 inches away from the base of the plant, and you would plant it that way. That would be one of your finishing moves and steps before you actually planted it, or sorry, before you actually watered it, and then be done. So
awesome.
Yeah, that's it. We planted
this is great.
our rosemary. Looks nice.
I love it. I can smell it from over here.
I know, it smells so good.
We have a sheet that we created that we're giving away for free with a mini product that we also have for sale right now, which is all about bulb planting actually. But you'll get this perennial planting sheet for free, and we'll put that link down below.
Yep, that goes, the perennial sheet is free when you purchase the e-guide that we've made, and it's seven popular,
7 popular bulbs
to plant
in the fall.
Yep, sorry.
So we we're like, we have a lot of products. We're like, what do we call it?
So,
we are introducing our 3-step planting system. And again, this is for bulbs, but you can still plant perennials. So, and we've got some, if you're not sure what you want to plant, this sheet would hopefully help you in determining what to put in the ground right now.
So, okay, so game for us, you guys can play along. Can we remember all the 7 bulbs that are in there? And then afterwards we can check and make sure we're right. We wrote this a couple weeks ago, and it's so busy. So
tulips, daffodils, iris, allium, anemones. We need 2 more. Do you remember? Grape hyacinth.
Ah, yes.
And these are like all of our favorite bulbs. So what is the last one?
I can't remember. Okay, guys.
I'm blanking out.
We should look. Can we look it up real quick? Thank you. Okay. Oh, well, so, okay. So anyway, yeah, in case you don't know, you want to plant fall bulbs. You want to plant bulbs in the fall if they're going to flower in the spring. And you want to plant flowering bulbs, you want to plant the summer flowering bulbs in the springtime. So, oh my gosh, what do we do?
Crocus.
Ah,
How do we forget
crocus.
it's one of the first ones to bloom?
Oh yeah, so yeah, oops.
That was supposed to be a surprise. Sean just threw that out. But
Yeah.
if those are any of the bulbs that you're thinking of planting, our 3-step planting system will help you get it placed at the right depth and like placed in the right direction, because they all have a different direction.
Yep, and the 3 steps are dig, place, and cover. It's really simple, but each bulb is different. Even the fall planted bulbs, each one has a different little thing to it to get it in the ground correctly and get it so it's going to thrive and you're going to be successful in seeing it next year.
But enough about bulbs.
Enough about bulbs.
If you have any planting questions about perennials or any ideas that you want to run by us, if you're trying to decide what to plant, let us know in the comments below. We'd love to help. And
yeah, I think that's it.
I think that's it. Guys.
I think we're good to go.
Yeah,
and
we hope that was helpful.
Yeah,
for
I
you.
really hope that was helpful. Hope you got some good nuggets of information there. Yeah, definitely leave your comments down below for us. And give us that thumbs up. Let us know we're doing a good job. And also subscribe if you haven't already, so you get updates on our latest videos.
Yep, that's a wrap, you guys. We'll be back next Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific. And as always, look for our daily videos for all the garden care ideas that we have out there.
Yep, definitely. So
Okay.
see you later and see you tomorrow.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.